Da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. Today I'm very excited to check out The Last Spike from Columbia Games. This is for 2 to 6 players, ages 10 plus. It'll take you about 45 minutes to play. And in The Last Spike, you are going to be laying down train spikes, trying to go from one end of the country to the other, laying down the spikes, trying to gain the most money in the end. It is a lighter gateway-esque game, but one you can still bust out on game night. But will you want to? Let's open it up and I'll tell you. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of The Last Spike. First and foremost, we got our handy dandy rule booklet. It is really about one page, double-sided, full color, if you really just put it like normal printer paper. It's a very simple rule booklet. It'll have you up and running in no time at all. I'm going to show you how to play a 3, 4, 5, 6-player version of the game. There's also a 2-player version of the game that's very, very similar, except you take out one of the tiles at the beginning of the game and nobody gets to see what it is. It tries to add a little bit more tension to a 2-player game. I don't feel like it succeeds, but I'll talk more about that at the end. So, we got a handy dandy rule booklet. We'll take a look at the components. We'll get a little bit into the gameplay. But in this game, what you're going to be trying to do is you're going to be trying to get the most money by laying down train tiles and trying to pick up cards and score points when routes get connected to various different cities. But none of that made any sense at all until you did it. So let's talk a little bit about the components, and then it'll make more sense. So first, we got our money. It's very simple. We got 1s, we got 10s, and we got 5s. They're perfectly serviceable, nice little wooden chips. And that's what you're going to be using for the money. Next, you got your board. Your board is definitely on the flimsier side. It's a very thin board. But functionally, it's a very well done board. It's nice, it's vivid, it's got some cool artwork. Down here, it's got how the game turns work, which is extremely useful. You can point to that for when new people play the game. And there's really not too much you're going to be doing on your turn, so that's pretty much all you need. You don't need reference cards really in this game. So next, you're going to get these train track tiles. You're going to get a whole big old bag of these. You are going to have to place the stickers on them when you get them, which is going to annoy some people. The important thing to note about these train tiles are going to be this number right here first, which is W3. So they're going to be exactly the right amount of train tiles as there are spots on the board. So this W3 has to go right here where it says W3. It can go nowhere else. There are no other W3 tiles in the entire game. So normally when you're playing 3, 4, 5, 6 players, you're going to have exactly the right amount of tiles out there for spots on the board. So you know that if you have W3, Yuma to Denver can never, ever, ever connect. It just can't happen unless you play it there. I'll tell you more about that later. The other important thing to note about this is that in order to lay this particular rail, it's going to cost you $2,000 to do that. So you'll pay that money to the bank. You will not get that money back. So next, you're going to have these cards up here, and you're going to have cards for each of the different cities here. We have Sacramento going all the way to St. Louis, Omaha, Denver, Ogden, so on and so forth. And you're going to have the opportunity to purchase these cards right here. And as you can see, the price is going to get higher the more of these cards that get purchased. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But what you need to know here is that eventually what's going to happen is these routes are going to get connected like this. Now, I know these numbers are incorrect, so don't mention it. But for instance, let's just say someone eventually finally plays this spot right here to go to W1, and Denver to Yuma are connected. So, if you have any Denver cards, which are the orange ones, which are hidden right now, or if you have any Yuma cards, you are going to score some points. So let's just pretend that you had 2 Denver cards and 1 Yuma card. So if Denver and Yuma scored, you would score $10,000 for Denver, since you have 2 Denver cards, and then you would score $6,000 for Yuma scoring, so you would get $16,000. Now you would also get to keep these cards. You get to keep these in front of you because, as you can see, Denver can potentially score 3 more times. So you're going to be collecting these cards. So how does that all work? Well, we've shown you everything here. Let's go over a mock turn. So what you're going to have is you're first going to start off, you're randomly going to draw 4 of these tiles face down. No one's going to be able to see what you are. You're going to set them in front of you so you know what you want to play. And then you are going to start the game. And on your turn, you're only going to do, 3 things. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay down 1 track and you are going to pay the cost. Now, early in the game, you're going to want to touch one of the different cities. Because as you might notice, you might say, hey, this card only costs 0. And this card only costs 0. That's because the first person to build a train track next to a city is going to get that free card, which is going to probably get you a good deal of money later on in the game. So with your first turn, you're probably going to want to do that. So for instance, let's see, we got D4 right here. We'd say, yeah, I'm going to play this D4 right, let's see, D4 would be right here, which means we're the first person to touch Denver. We would have to pay our $3,000 to the bank. And now that we have done that, we get to collect a payout, if any. And since Denver to Omaha has not connected, has not finished, nobody gets a payout. And then you're going to be able to buy one property. Now, the catch is you can only buy a property as long as the 0 on top of the property is gone. So right now, we couldn't purchase anything at all. However, luckily, since we're the first person to touch Denver, we, bada boom, get to buy the Denver. And that would go in front of us, and it's absolutely free. We would draw one of the tiles face down, a new tile face down to replace our old tile, and that's our entire turn. That's it. That's all you're going to be doing on your turn. But since you did that now, let's just say that someone isn't able to purchase right here. So let's say they have to go to V3. Well, that would stink if they have to go to V3. First and foremost, if you cannot build a train track next to an existing train track or next to a city, you have to pay double what the amount is. So, you know, this 1,000 would now become a 2,000 if we had to play a D2. So let's see. We have to play this D2. That stinks. We have to pay $2,000. But we still get the option to purchase one of these cards. Now, we don't have to purchase Denver or Omaha. We could purchase whatever we want. We could potentially purchase Sacramento if it was available. But at the time, right now, 0, 0, 0, 0. The zeros are all on top. We can't purchase what we want, which means we would have to purchase this Denver, which is not a bad idea. You'd probably purchase this for $1,000, put it in front of you, and continue onward. Now, the real catch to this game, though, and I'll talk more about this in the pros and cons, is the fact that each turn you have to lay a track. You have to pay to lay a track. And there gets to be a certain point in the game where you don't want to lay a track, either because you don't have the money or it's because it's going to complete a route that maybe you don't have any interest in. It's not going to score you any money, and that's part of the fun of the game. But you're going to continue to go until Sacramento to St. Louis is connected. Whoever lays down the last spike is going to get a large amount of money. You will tally up the scoring, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game, the most money at the end of the game, is going to be the winner. And that, in a nutshell, is how the last spike is played. Alrighty then, the last spike from Columbia Games. What are my thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, the game is not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. Some of the things I didn't like about the game. 2 players I felt lost a lot of the tension. There's some good tension in this game because you're not sure which spikes are going to be getting played unless they're in your hand. Because that provides for some exciting moments, some tense moments. You're like, oh man, I hope somebody meets that spot. I hope they play that spot. And in the 2-player game, you know exactly who has what tiles once you draw everything, and you lose a little bit of the tension. So 2 players was not the best for me. Also, 6 players does tend to drag a little bit too long. 5 players as well. I didn't mind it too much, but some people I was playing with did, and I know some other people have mentioned the 6-player game version of the game, so I definitely can understand that. It does drag a little bit. Continuing onward, it is a little bit repetitive. You're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until the game is over. And I mean, there's really not too many veering choices. The only choices you have are, do I try and, you know, diversify my portfolio and get a whole bunch of different colors? Do I try to focus on only one color? Do I get one of the routes that I know is going to get connected, the cities I know are going to get connected? There's not really too much strategy going on here. No, there is more than you would expect when you first start playing the game. Any other cons I have with this game? Oh, I gotta mention it. The packaging is weird. It comes in a slip box cover, like the kind you'd see on a DVD case. And, you know, it's not a huge deal to me because component-wise, aside from the board, the components aren't bad, but they could be better. I wish they were better, but this is still one that I'm going to keep on my shelf despite the components, despite the fact it doesn't play well at 2 or 6, because, moving on to the pros, what it does at 3 through 5 is out-freaking-standing. The last spike, let's get this out of the way. If you routinely hit 3, 4, or 5 players, this is a great game to get. And this is a game that I really like for a couple different reasons. One of the biggest things I love about games is when a game is very diverse, when I get busted out with different crowds, different groups, and this one fits that bill. Family game, you want to play a family game? Look no further. This is definitely a family game. It's very simple to learn, very simple to teach. It says it plays in 45 minutes. When you have less players, that time is less than 45 minutes, which is always a good thing. Game night game. This is going to be a good game night game. It's got some interesting choices, interesting decisions. It's not going to be one you're going to want to play every single time, but it's one that you have on your shelf that gets played every once in a while. People are going to be like, man, I really like that game. And that's another thing I liked about this game. A lot of people I've played this with, as soon as we get done with the game, they're like, I want to play that again. I want to play that again. Because the game has an interesting arc to it. Like, you start off the game, and you're like, okay, this game's really simple, this game's really simple, this game's really simple, and then it's like, whoa. Whoa, I see what you did there. And it's like maybe like 40 to 60% of the way through the game, you start to see things that you didn't notice at first. And I like that. I like that kind of, maybe a little bit of crunchiness in that game as you're trying to figure out what the optimal move is. I also like the game has some tension to it. Who's going to be playing that tile? Like, I'm going to score big points if this city gets connected, but I don't have the tile. Who has it? Does someone else need this tile as well? Do they need to score? Because I like that. This game, it has like a Lost Cities-esque vibe where like you don't want to play a tile because you know it's going to help somebody out, but you're getting to a certain point where it's like, man, I really need to play this tile. Either A, because I'm about to run out of money, or I don't have money, or something like that. I like how the money works in this game. I just like everything about this game. It is a fantastic, under-the-radar game that I highly recommend checking out. That is The Last Spike from Columbia Games, one that I give a big thumbs up for. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below and in the comments below. Let me know! Trains! What are your thoughts on trains? Me personally, I've ridden on subways, and I've ridden on stuff like that. I've never actually been on a real train. I've been on a Santa train where Santa was on there, but that really doesn't count. We went maybe 30 yards. But train travel, I know my wife, she hates it. Well, she likes the idea of it, but she actually went on a train like a couple of years ago, and she was like 8 hours late to get somewhere because there were cattle on the track. That just blows my mind that that's a viable form of traveling when cattle can ruin your train route. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on trains, and as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.